Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tales from a Professional Nerd. My name is Bryan Steele, and I will be your nerd today and any other day that you watch one of my silly little shows. Alright, so today is going to be a cool episode where I am going to share a little bit more about stuff that's happening with Intergalactic Heroes. But before then, and obviously I'll put a thing in the description that talks about the timestamp as to, when it's done. When the Week in Bryan is done, because I know some of you don't care about what I'm going through, and they just want to get to the topic. So let's just get started. Personally, things are better. I know last week I did a mental health episode and talked a lot about stress and all that kind of stuff. All that stuff's still there, but I'm dealing with things well and trying to make the most out of everything that I can. You know how that goes. I do want to have one call. I'm going to the gym, doing all the personal stuff is doing well. All that stuff. Is it's status quo, stressful quo, status stress. I don't know. But I do want to say one thing, and that is that last night, or rather yesterday, my father-in-law reached out to my wife. I don't know if he watches my videos or not, but he realized that I've been juggling a lot lately and really, having a time. And so he made sure that Natalie was going to be able to surprise me with an evening out where I'm not having to worry about deadlines or teenage drama or just a nice de-stress night out. And between him and Natalie, they managed to do something really cool, and we went to the early access screening of Kingdom of the... I got this cool little poster, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. We went to dinner. We went out to that cool pre-IMAX screening. It was a good movie, but it was nice. It was nice to not be freaking out about stuff and focused on, just really for a handful, 4 or 5 hours, just sort of leave everything in the studio, leave everything on the floor, and just go enjoy myself. Big thanks goes out to my wonderful wife and my father-in-law for orchestrating that. So that's pretty much personal. Painting wise, I still haven't done anything. My hobby section. You know what? That's not true. That's not 100% true. I primed a bunch of stuff, and I've been doing a little bit of 3D printing lately to... I've got a cool piece of terrain that I want to use for Warzone Eternal that I've been slowly putting together. I've had several chunks of it fail, and all of it, every single time it's failed, it's because it's been me. It's not the file. One time I didn't put enough resin in the vat and told myself I'll add resin in a little bit, and I totally spaced it. Went out to the other room, watched TV, got caught up in a couple episodes, and then I was like, oh hey, I should go check on my print, and it had failed like an hour before. It's just the trials and tribulations of trying to do 3D printing. These are the things that you deal with sometimes. Now I have the hiccups, apparently. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much hobby stuff. Game-wise, I have not done much, apart from playing a lot of Payday 3. And that's really it. Oh, I did mention in the Week in Bryan last week, or 2 weeks ago, that I had found a game on Xbox that's going to go for it's in pre-order right now that I cannot wait for it to hit, because it's basically action figures. It's a 3D shooter based on being an action figure in a toy in like a toy room or a toy store, or it looks fantastic. I think I called it Hyperforce before. That's a Power Rangers thing. It is actually called Hypercharge. And I highly suggest it. And if you are on Xbox and you get it, and you see Bryan Steele, or Bryan Steele, the Xbox logo running around, try and jump into a game. That's what I got to say there. But yeah, I've been just basically playing Payday 3 and a little bit of Baldur's Gate. That's really all the gaming I've been getting done. I had plans to try and get some Warzone in, but those fell through, and yeah, so weekend Brian, kind of boring this week. Work-wise, has not been boring. It's been the opposite of boring. Doing a lot of stuff with Intergalactic Heroes, as you already know. Juggling a lot of art orders and maps and things for several Evil Genius projects. And it's always cool to see that stuff coming together. I love getting to see these things take shape. Some of the background parts dealing with movie companies and licensors, and it's nice to be in charge of those things. It's nice to be a part of that stuff. It's cool to be, have elevated myself in the industry to the point where I can do these things. But there are definitely days that I miss just being a creator. Because there's a lot of management stuff that I know I am not... I'm not going to say I'm bad at it, but I am not as good at it as other people are. I recognize my weakness is I would much rather be designing and writing than attending meetings and sending 10 emails a day to people that might not get back to me for a week. I'm not very good at the hurry up and wait. I know this shocks you, but I don't deal with downtime well. So it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff to do, and then throw that in with the stuff that I also need to be creating. I love it, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I love doing what I do. But there are definitely some days where the having to juggle other people and other people's idiosyncrasies. It's not something that I would put on my on my I'm really happy to do that every day kind of thing. But we make good stuff. I like to think that I'm good at what I do, and at the end of the day, if the product is solid and we make good, we make good games, then it's all worth it. And I hope you guys, you gamers out there, you recognize and appreciate that. No pun intended, it's not all fun and games making games. Warzone stuff is doing great. We are, I believe, last time I talked to Alex, the layout person has started to really come together and put stuff together for the print assets. I recently told the public about the personalities in the Graviton Protocol scenario pack, and people seem to be happy about that, especially the couple of surprises that we put in there. I sent over the full pitch for my newest Shadowrun novel. Waiting to hear back on whether or not I need to tweak that, but this particular upcoming novel that I'll be working on is not deeply tied to the Sixth World meta. It is mostly a book to tell a fun, entertaining story and give people a real nice slice of the Sixth World Shadowrun kind of feel. So I'll be happy if that pitch comes back unchanged. But if it comes back with some tweaks, I'll understand. Speaking of Shadowrun novels, my wife has started to officially sink her teeth into one of my books and starting to read it. And to say that I'm happy about that would be an understatement. I absolutely love when people that I know and care for, and that I actually care about their opinion, read and hopefully enjoy my work. And knowing that there have been times where she has, gone up to bed early so she can read. Specifically, she'd be like, "Yeah, I'm going upstairs. I'm going to read some book, read some of the book." It doesn't feel like she's doing it out of a chore. Like she's not doing it specifically. Oh, I'm doing it because I want to make you happy. She's doing it because it'll make me happy, but she's enjoying it. She's starting to get into it. She asked me some questions the other day about Mr. Johnson's and the character that I had created. One of the characters I had created. Asked for a little backstory on them, and it was it's cool to see her get it, because she's also not really lined up with that world. She's never played Shadowrun before. She's never sat in on one of our games. I don't know if she's ever watched any of the streams or anything. So it's cool. I'm very happy that she's enjoying it, and if I can get somebody hooked on Shadowrun in the meantime, that'd be great. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. Oh, wrapping up on some narrative arc stuff for a board game. And then just everything else is, dive headfirst into Evil Genius. So, which brings us to today's topic, which I'm going to write down this timestamp so I don't forget. So it's roughly at the 11-minute mark. That way, when I put the description in the video, people who do not care about the Week in Bryan can skip that and go straight to this amazing stuff. So you can tell by the thumbnail and the title of the video today that we are going to talk about aliens in Intergalactic Heroes. We're going to do a quick, sort of a brief overview of the concept behind how we're handling aliens. Because it's kind of a twofold thing, and then I'm actually going to give you the six. I'm going to give you the general overview of the 6 alien origins that you can make heroes with in the main book. Obviously, there will be more that will show up later down the road as publications come out and new races get expanded on and things like that, or new species get expanded on. But it is. These first 6 and human, which I guess I'll talk about humans too, because while we haven't really discussed in our setting what's up with Terra, with Earth, with Sol 3 as what it actually should be called, humans, I guess, are technically aliens on every other planet, maybe. Kind of, sort of, I don't know. Either way, we'll talk about all the origins. But collectively, let's just talk about aliens in Intergalactic Heroes as it is. In sci-fi games, collectively, a lot of times you get I remember the old D20 Star Wars, the first book that came out, like basically it's the monster manual, but it was like Galactic Denizens or something like that. That was just piles upon piles upon piles of different alien species, and if you wanted to play it as a character, here's the stats to do so. And it was almost too much. I mean, obviously you don't have to use it all, but it does mean that there's so much out there that as a storyteller, as a game master, if you don't know all that stuff back to front, occasionally one of your players might come to you with a character species that doesn't fit to your narrative, or maybe has an interesting power that could completely thwart something that you've got planned for your game or whatever. We wanted to make sure that we avoided that by initially only focusing on a handful of alien races, alien origins, that are a little more prevalent in the general setting that we've cooked up. The saga, as you will, of our primary storyline. These races these alien origins, along with the human cultures that exist across the stars, form the primary players. And that doesn't mean that there, aren't going to be the occasional, here's a very rare species or something like that. It just means that for most, for the initial like player's guide, that initial kind of here thrust forward the story that we're trying to tell, these 6 plus the human cultures are kind of the most, I don't say the most important, that's not the right way to put it, the most populous. You're going to see these the most, at least initially. We will obviously add more down, as things go. I've already got a couple that we wanted to put into the player's guide, but we wanted, the idea of 7 origins, 6 plus human, was probably the best option without creating a giant glut of information in that initial book. And it gives us something to put into like the Game Master's Guide and maybe publish as PDFs and things down the road. But there will be multiple types of alien species. Sentient species, humanoid species, non-humanoid species, non-humanoid sentient species. Heck, synthetic species, which we'll actually get into one in the Origins. There's going to be a lot available, but there will also be room for people to expand upon stuff. Like if they want to use Intergalactic Heroes to do their own version of the Halo franchise, they can find the classes that fit best for their, ODST soldiers and the Halo and the actual Spartans. They can find how to make those characters, and then figure out, maybe a handful of the species that we've put out, maybe some of the NPC style threats. Maybe they will serve best as the Covenant. Doctor one of the hover bikes to be a ghost. Like there's things that can be done to fit your universe or the setting that you want to play. Sometimes with just a slight different coat of paint, rather than being like, I don't have we don't have any rules for Covenant elites. No, we don't, but they really do feel very similar in nature to the insert other random species that's very similar. You just skin them so they now look like Covenant. So we want to be able to make it that the alien origins, the alien species collectively, can be as diverse as you need them to be. Or as if you want to run on a particular planet, maybe there's 2 or 3 dominant species on that planet, and maybe only one of them is like hero available origin, and maybe the other 2 are mostly NPCs. I mentioned that because there is one of the main 6 alien origins comes from a planet called Kaphon, and on Kaphon there are 2 or 3 other species that we have talked about, but they are not in the Origins lists. They may eventually get Origins rules because they are sentient species, but they will more than likely spend the beginning of their existence more like having NPC stat templates that will let people play. If you wanted to set your entire first adventure or your first campaign or whatever on Kaphon, you could, because you'll have the different, the 3 primary cultures in some format to be able to use. And then we'll have some weird one-offs in the NPC like allies and opponent section of the book. Someone on one of the on our Discord mentioned something about are you going to have a version of 40K's the warp, like the extra dimensional demons and things. And that is a pretty heavy sci-fi trope. Through things like Event Horizon and 40K, there's always been that kind of interdimensional threats looming on the outside. Is hell just another dimension? There's that kind of stuff exists. So we'll probably have a handful of things that you can use for that sort of thing in the bestiary, in the files of Intergalactic Hero bad guys. And who knows, if it catches on and people really like the idea of having an extra dimensional threat be a larger part of the setting, maybe we'll do an adventure that's based on, an incursion from this other dimension. While the main story and concept of our setting exists in what we're building, it does not mean that the space is real big, and so we can go to other places and other dimensions and other there's all kinds of stuff we can do, our production manager, we've actually talked to Paul and I have talked at great length some of the expansion type stuff that we already kind of want to do as a way to add more elements to the game without necessarily being like, okay, and our setting also has this. And our setting also has this. Because you don't want to turn your primary setting into a catch-all, just slot bucket of throw everything at the wall and hope it sticks. You want it to be a cohesive story for people to play in. You want it to be a place that seems like it lives and breathes and exists. And then you can add extra stuff to it. Here's this expansion on how to use. I was just talking about the extra dimensional threats. Maybe we decide to do like an expanding or a supplement at some point. Maybe even just a PDF that's a handful of extra dimensional beings and a couple of story hooks. And maybe here's this cool new upgrade that you can get to your starship that lets you cross between dimensions. This is all just coming off the top of my head, but it's stuff that we could do in the future. Just probably not out of the gate because it's not something that we want to make. We don't want to imply to everyone that this is part of the game and this has to be there. So that's kind of where we're looking at when it comes to aliens, is that we can make anything we want. The sky is the limit. Beyond the sky, the stars are the limit, and there are so many cool ideas and cool tropes and aspects of different science fiction that we will never run out of things that we could possibly come up with. Now, it is our goal to try and make things, as unique as we can. A wise man once said that nothing's ever been, nothing's new anymore, or something like that. And you'll see some hints of things in our alien origins, but we want to try and make things as unique as possible, or at least where someone sits down at a game and goes, "Oh, this is kind of like that." Like, we might have something that feels like Eldar or Vulcan or that kind of space logical ancient species. We might have something like that. But we also, the last thing we want to do is have someone go, "Oh, these are Vulcan." We want someone to go, "Oh, so they're kind of like Star Trek Vulcans?" You question it, see the homage, see the connections, where the inspiration was taken from, but don't just go, "Oh, all right, so they're just Intergalactic Hero Vulcans." It's all about the delivery and where that comes from. So I hope as I go through these, as I give you the lowdown on our 6 alien origins, that you see the inspiration behind some of them, but then you get excited because they are unique. And I think we've done a real good job of making sure that I've not seen much like this. I consume a lot of media, a lot of sci-fi, a lot of horror, a lot of action and adventure stuff. I devour, movies and TV shows. And I think we've done a very good job of making sure that while there may be some similarities and some root concepts that you might find, that the actual, like, get into the background, get into the nitty gritty of them, and they are cool and unique and fun that you want to play. It is, for me as a designer, it is my goal for a player to sit down with this player's guide to look at this list and not know what they, immediately be like, oh, I could do that. Ooh, I could do that. Ooh, I don't know. Do I want to do this or do I want to do this? The goal is to have options that are all so cool that all you want to do is play multiple games and make multiple characters and, see how many different ideas you can come up with what we've got. And I hope that you guys will see that. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and dig in. We'll start, I'm going to do it in alphabetical order, except for the fact that we're going to start with human cultures. So, human cultures, the reason why I keep calling it human cultures instead of just saying humans is because this category of origin, kind of the generic, the standard, if you were playing a regular Everyday Heroes game, you're playing a human. Obviously, I mean, you could be a mutant or whatever, but like for the most part, this is your standard character template, but in a setting that has potentially millions of worlds that have different humans settled on it, or different humans that were seeded there, or the human culture concept is you're not all from Sol 3. You're not all descended from the original human. Heck, we may not even say exactly why humans are all over the place. Maybe it's divine seeding. Maybe it is a glitch in the Matrix. Who knows why? But it does mean that's kind of an intergalactic standard of physiology. But we do want to allow for the fact that maybe on this planet, all the humans are, we collectively call them human, but they are, they've all got like light green skin. Or maybe they're extremely, extremely heavy pigmented to fight off the adverse radiation of their sun. Or, it doesn't necessarily need to be a completely different species. There, it's just, there's some slight modifications, and especially when it comes to game assets, when it comes to like their stats, they're human. One of the things that we did do is, unlike humans that specifically come from Sol 3, we wanted to be able to reflect a little bit about the culture that they came from. So all of the human cultures, when you play a human character, yeah, you're human in every way, all the normal human stuff that comes with a character, but you also get a free expertise to show that the culture that you're from has some kind of focus. And it doesn't mean that like every single person from that culture is that, which is why you get to choose it. Rather than us being like, oh, this is a fishing planet, so everybody has expertise in fishing. No, that's not realistic. It's also a little silly, and in some cases kind of degrading, to think that an entire species can just be dedicated to one skill. So we wanted to give some agency to the players. So if you wanted to come up with this cool human culture that you are a member of this place and this stuff and the thing from this far away, then rock and roll, and you choose expertise this. So that's how we're hopefully handling humans without making we don't want humans also to be so overshadowed by the alien origins that in a game concept where a lot of times human or the human culture collectives are more numerous than other aliens, it always feels weird that you sit down at a game table and there's not a human present. So we wanted to give at least some kind of leg up to choosing a space human, so to speak. So, right, now let's get into the alien origins, because I just realized we're at the half an hour mark, and I had someone very close to me recently say that my last Intergalactic Heroes video was, quote, like 16 hours long. So I need to at least try and keep to my normal time, try and keep it under an hour. So I will go through these alien origins to the best of my ability without going too far. And as always, please, 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 like, share, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. But take this conversation, if you are Discord savvy, take this conversation to the Evil Genius Discord, where we've started an Intergalactic Heroes conversation thread. Basically, where you can keep talking and get people excited about maybe some of the stuff that we talk about here. Or if there's a question that you have, put it in the comment section, and I'll answer it here, and maybe I'll copy and paste it over in the Discord to try and get people to start talking about this. Because while the book itself is not due, like the actual published production date is not until early next year, we're a lot farther along in getting this at least to the point where we can get it in front of people to see in some capacity. So I am very excited, and I want to try and keep people excited and keep people going. So let me take a sip of my stuff, and then we'll get to it. I got a new flavor for my soda stream, and it's a guava, and it's remarkably good. It's just very, very, very sour. All right. So our first species are called the Acrididin. The Acrididin are basically locust people. They have deeply retrograde legs. They have still 2 legs, 2 arms. They do have small vestigial, tiny arms on their thorax, on their midsection, that are just they're more there for show and narrative. Like maybe that's what cuts your burrito while your big hands actually are doing stuff. They are a species that is not hive-minded. They definitely are individuals. They are definitely themselves. But they are an insectoid race that have very strong familial ties. They have very strong colony feel. They build on top of one another. They are extremely, I don't want to say hardworking, but they tend to be very focused on what they do. And one of the things about the Acrididins is that, initially seeing them, you'd think that they might be scary. You think that they might be, it's an insectoid race. Look at those mouth parts. They're here to eat all of our babies, and it could not be further from the truth. While they can technically eat living animal tissue, they're generally herbivores. They are they're more like grasshoppers than any other kind of insect, and they are exceptionally hardy because they can eat pretty much any kind of vegetation, from dry oatmeal to grasses to reeds and weeds, lichen off of rocks. They are extremely good at grinding all of the nutrients out of anything that they shove into their mouth parts. And that's actually one of the cool things about them as an origin, is their ability to live without food or water for extreme lengths. Because I don't know if you know this, this is, again, we're going to do a quick little thing. I took several semesters of entomology when I was in college, and it was one of my favorite, one of the only classes that I went to and didn't fight with the teacher. I didn't, argue against authority. I just loved it. And I don't know if you know this or not, but most insects, most arthropods, even if you cut off their head, their body will continue to live for days. because while they have no direct brain function, they're still breathing. They're still, because they breathe through spiracles on their sides. The arthropods are amazing creatures, and amazingly hardy creatures, and I wanted to try and translate that into the Acrididans because I didn't want to create just another insect race that's, oh, we're a hive mind, oh, we speak with telepathy back and forth, and everything is a meal in front of me. These are more like they're farmers. They create amazing crops. They travel the galaxy in search of new and wonderful vegetation to crunch and munch and put into their crop. I think we haven't gotten the concept art done for the Acrididans yet, but I cannot wait for them. I expect them to land somewhere along the lines of like the prawns from District 9, the movie, but except with a little bit more, a heavier lean towards grasshopper than just alien. So yeah, that's the Acrididans. Next up are the Cnidians, which is actually spelled with a C. It's a Cnidin. I love these guys because when we were just coming up with these aliens, we wanted to have something that sort of like it isn't what it seems on the outside kind of thing. And so the Cnidians are technically, the species is this kind of jellyfish blob with very long, like several meters worth of tendrils. But they are extremely advanced. They live on an aquatic world, obviously jellyfish, and they over millennia have become insanely good at biomechanically growing materials. Like, so their metals, their alloys, almost all their structures are made out of effectively biomechanical, biological, like how an abalone grows a shell, how they secrete these chemicals and these compounds that eventually turn into those shiny hard shells of a clam. Imagine that concept, except applied to higher sciences. So their spaceships will look very iridescent and very shiny and probably be filled with water. But the one of the things that they did very early on in their history, the Cnidians figured out, as people came to their planet and dove into their oceans and whatnot, and they realized that if they wanted to be able to interact with the outside world, that they had to grow basically humanoid style bodies in order to interact with the rest of outer space, the rest of the universe out there. So the Cnidians have biomechanically grown humanoid exoskeletons, exoshells, that in which the jellyfish part sits in a little protected, like a protected casing inside the thing's head, and little tentacles go out throughout the whole body, and effectively it's a humanoid creature for game purposes, but you're actually seeing a biologically grown, of basically a vat grown suit being piloted by this jellyfish brain. The Cnidians are intensely driven towards creation, towards understanding. Very like they can look at something and just kind of understand how it's put together, because they've spent millions of years evolving the ability to biologically grow their devices. So they just know how things go together. They know how things work. And they're very, very good at making stuff. Whether it's art or tools or ships or weapons or armor or houses, they are particularly good at the manufacture of they're particularly good at taking ideas and making them into things. And of course they're aquatic because, jellyfish. I should say amphibious because they can go both on land and water, and their shells are designed to do both. Which brings us to another synthetic creature, because the Nedian's shells are technically alive. They grew them. They're biomechanical. So they operate like a regular species in every way. Which brings us to the crofted. The crofted are actually our synthetic species, our robots. They are not robots in the strictest sense, in the way that they have free thought. Their programming is more like extreme artificial intelligence prompting. Whoever designed each crofted is individual. You're not gonna. You might find crofted that are designed to look similar to others. Maybe their creator, their manufacturer, had an idea that was like, oh, I like what that guy did. I want to do that too. But you're not going to see these. They're not mass produced. They're not Star Wars droids. They're definitely not battle droids. These are things that the difference between a robot and a crofted. A robot is something that is mass-produced and just runs on programming. A crofted is something that was painstakingly put together, designed to serve a purpose, and then given a spark, a seed of thought and sentience, and then allowed to become a person. So crofted are absolutely sentient beings in every way. Most of the time, you're going to see people that are probably going to play crofted that have 2 arms, 2 legs, because that's the easiest way to interact with the world around you, is to try and embody what you think you can. But there's nothing that says that someone couldn't make a crofted that has, if they want to work with their GM and go, hey, can I play a crofted that's the shape of a dog? Okay, I guess you have a dog head, and maybe, or heck, maybe make a quadrupedal crofted. There's nothing that says that you can't, that you couldn't play a weirder body type than just humanoid, but it will be something that you want to work with the GM to figure out what that means. The crofted need to be of medium size, but can you be a centaur crofted? Like a centaur body style, maybe? Could you do like a serpent style, or maybe tracked feet or something like that? These are things that you could do. The stats do not reflect any of that. The stats reflect that as a crofted, the origin was designed to fulfill a role. They were built to design. And that means that each crofted actually gets to choose a couple additional proficiencies that they are built to do. Something that was part of that initial build design that, maybe somebody builds a crofted and goes, you know what, I want to make sure that one of my crofted bonuses, I'm proficient in sleight of hand. I'm proficient in stealth. No matter what my backgrounds and my classes, and no matter what that says, these are the things I'm proficient in. And it's because my crofted was built with a flat black, like a matte covering. I'm not shiny in any way. Actually, the skin of my chassis devours light, and my fingers are extremely long. My fingers have they're 2 inches longer than they should be, and they're got 5 extra points of articulation in each one. That's why the sleight of hand is so good. These are what we're hoping people will cook into their why you have been built the way you are, is change, make their body interesting, make their body unique, be a unique crofted. but obviously the game itself, the resource, the stats behind the Origins is just here's a synthetic life form, and it is built to do a specific thing. Please let us know what that is. Now, our last 3 Origins are a little more straight up alien. We have the Gabhar, which are a heavily muscled race. They've got very thick, like hoof toes, and like hoofed finger, like their fingers and thumbs. They've got no lack of dexterity or anything like that in their fingers, but they are hard capped and designed for climbing. They have a very thick skin, like a leathery, like a light fur perhaps. But they also, one of their predominant features is their bar. Their bar, BAHR, is this kind of dome head crest sort of. Their forehead and much of their skull is extremely reinforced and protruding, because it's what they, when they were still growing up into a civilized species, kind of getting off the ground, the bar there is their predominant like cultural tool. They do a lot of just for friends headbutting. A lot of their sports are based off of running headfirst into things or pressing your head against something, and tests of strength, and they've got all kinds of different cultural things that revolve around that. How tough and how cool is your headpiece. And they live in a their home world is very craggy, very mountainous. Not a lot of agriculture. Very bland as far as like a lot of lichen, a lot of moss, a lot of pine cones. Yeah, so they've grown up very pragmatic. Extremely utilitarian society, very clannish. Their individual clans kind of cling to particular areas where food could be grown. But they've got a rough life, not rough as in bad, but like there's a lot of, when they were children, it was probably a lot of headbutting on the lawn, like out in the playground. There's a lot of probably things that look like mosh pits, but it was just them playing games. And it's, and they're not like bloodthirsty or like they're trying to kill each other. It's for them, it's all fun and games. Like this is how they were raised. It's how their bodies are built. And one of the things about the Gabhar is when they leave their clan, when they leave their territories, when they say goodbye to home and say, all right, I'm out, a lot of times they are mourned as if dead, because they've left home and they're gone. We're not gonna see them again. The space is a huge place, and while the feeling of that comes off as kind of morbid, they're gonna die, they're never coming home, the opposite is actually the reason a lot of them don't come home is actually kind of the opposite. It's not macabre at all. It's because they get out there and they taste non-bitter liquor. They get out there and they find that people put sugar in their food. They experience life to a degree that on their home world, their home territories, their home clans don't really, their traditions don't really reflect on that. So they get out there and they experience what the rest of the universe is experiencing. And sometimes they get kind of addicted to it and they just stay. They're like, why do I need to go back home? I have everything I want and more out here. And then, that's how they've gotten across the galaxy, and why you find them in roles of like mercenaries or bounty hunters or colonial scouts, is because the Gapar, they fight fiercely for their homes and their territories, but then once they see what's out there, past the past the edge of their knowledge, they get hooked. Next up is a I would say probably the most elegant of our alien origins, the Oryxari. The Oryxari are they tend to be thin framed. They come from a subterranean a subterranean world where their planet is ravaged by lightning storms on the surface. So they have to build. They have to go to the surface for materials and stuff, but they build down into the crust of the planet. And culturally, they revere their moon more than anything else. Their moon is their primary holy symbol. It's all circles and moons, and everything is reflected in all of their culture. Because if they can see it, it means the clouds are clear. It means the storms aren't raging, and it's a good omen. When the species was still young, being able to see the moon meant you had several hours of being able to forage on the surface, to travel from one place to the next, to do all the things that, as soon as the clouds gather and you lose the moon, then the storms are on the way, and that means go seek shelter. Time to go. And so their culture has developed that this moon, the concept of a circle of it becomes a symbol of good luck. They wave to each other by making a moon to each other, and this is all brought together in the one physical feature that they have that is I won't lie, it's one of my favorite things that we've done that isn't directly reflected too much in the stats, but it's definitely something that I think that NPCs will show up with this and people will go, ooh. The Oryxari have two very large horns, very like thick, dense, sharp pointed horns that come out of the sides of their head. They, when they're young, they file them down, they sharpen the edges, because their horns never stop growing. They will continue to grow, and it is an Oryxari's crown is considered their how they treat it. Is it polished? Is it decorated? Has it been wired to grow a particular way over the years to do specific patterns? Has it been augmented for combat? These are the things that the Oryxari. You looking at an Oryxari's crown, their horns, you should be able to almost tell kind of where they sit in their how they view themselves, and this continues on until we get to old age or older age, when they get to a point where they feel more that they don't need to fight anymore. They're not going to argue about, they're not going to get into fights with their horns. They're not going to go that route. Is they eventually let their horns grow and shape them almost like the branches of a bonsai tree, to form a actual circle, a halo around their head. They grow their horns into one another, and they polish them, and they braid them together over time. And it takes such dedication and such focus and such kind of wherewithal to know what you're doing over months and years, that only the only the oldest and kind of most put together and the least brash of the Oryxari managed to grow their horns into a traditional halo, which also becomes a circle, which is in semblance of their moon. So I look forward to seeing NPCs, and specifically art of NPCs, where the Oryxari have grown their crown into a halo. Their horns are no longer, so as a species, yeah, they get their horns. They can use it as a weapon when they're young and brash and still making a name for themselves. But I think it'd be really cool to see characters who have Oryxari characters who have achieved that thought, that sort of sense of self that lets them put away their childish horns. And now I'm representing the future. I'm representing the good things of our culture, the moon itself, the halo over my head. So that. I think the Oryxari are going to be very, very cool, and I cannot wait to see. Paul and I have been working very in depth on what the art concepts are going to be for these, and I look forward to seeing the iconic Oryxari when that happens. And the last alien origin, I'm almost to my time point. The last alien origin of the player character thing, I believe I actually already. I think I already gave this out on the Facebook group, so you guys have already heard about the Turblids. The Turblids are mollusks. They come from the planet of Kafon, where they live below. So Kafon is a mountainous region that basically is cut into three sections. There is a crust of populated mountains that is very high up in the atmosphere. It is ripe with animal life, birds galore. It is the closest thing to paradise that this planet has. And it is very heavily settled by one species. And then there is a band of very thick kind of equatorial like mist and fog. It's a very dense, it's such a drastic change in altitudes. It creates kind of like a cloud bank, and in that cloud bank not a lot can live because the sun doesn't get there. It's very it creates a very inhospitable border between the lowlands and the upper crust of Kafon. But what it also does is that it then creates the lower areas are moist, damp, a lot of swamps and caves, and dark and like not a lot of light gets through that cloud cover. So you have a lot of funguses. You got a lot of predatory animals that are there to eat the things that are eating the fungus. And one of the species that has really kind of come to its own in this area are the Turblids. They are effectively like humanoid snails, no shells, but they are they're fungivores. They eat fungus solely, and over time, through the darkness of the gloomy parts of Kafon, and kind of getting caught in the middle between the two other species on the planet, they learned to survive by manipulating others through sound. They actually can create they've got multiple in their weird mollusky necks. They've got multiple layers of vocal cords, like dozens upon dozens upon dozens of different vibrating pitches and tones that actually allows them to create almost like a supersonic, like a subsonic mood adjuster. Like they can make people more anxious. They can make people calmer. They can just sort of seed the area with a tone that makes people a little distracted. And it's a lot of the stuff you just can't hear. It's not even humming. Like you might notice that their neck is vibrating a little bit, but you won't know that it's just natural to them. And this actually gives the Turblids a benefit in social situations that allows them to effectively manipulate others with by weakening certain aspects or strengthening certain aspects of a conversation with this sound. And because they deal so much with subsonics and things, they also are extremely sensitive to sound. They can hear a pin drop from a mile away, kind of thing. It also makes them very sensitive to it in the case of like if somebody like a flashbang grenade going off around them would be horrifying. They use a version of echolocation to help them see, and anytime that a turblid would be made deaf for any reason, they are also considered blind. It could be a pretty rough instance, but the goal, of course, is that a turblid is probably going to hopefully maneuver their way out of that sort of circumstance, or if they know that that thing is happening, give themselves proper protection to avoid it. But the turblids are a little slower in their deliberate movements. Their movements are because their bodies don't have bones. Their bodies are it's all effectively muscular hydraulics. So they are very dedicated in all their movements and what they do, but it does mean that they're a little slower on their feet. They don't run quite as fast as some of the other origins, but they are. I think they're going to be a lot of fun in social circumstances, and you'll see. I think characters who like to play the talkers, I think are going to have a lot of fun with turblids. So yeah, let me take my drink. It has been a lot of fun developing these primary species, and of course there are a ton. I've got a pile of different alien species ready to go. I don't have character stats for all of them, or like origins stats for all of them, but we're gonna have a bunch available in the player's guide for people to have as NPCs and stuff. And then the Game Master Guide, of course, will have just a slew of more to be able to populate your guys' stories and adventures. So I hope I didn't ramble too much, and it gave you a good view over the 7 origins, the 6 alien origins and the human cultures. So please take this conversation over to our Discord, over to our Intergalactic Heroes Facebook group, where you can talk more about this. And if you catch me on Discord, I talk a lot. I like to go figure. I like to spill the beans. And who knows? Maybe if you get involved in the Discord, you might be even be able to get into the playtest information as we start to divvy some of that out. But until further notice, just stay awesome and stay safe. And, get your shots, wash your hands, wear a mask if you have to. Try and avoid additional stress if you can. I know I am. And just leave every room a little happier than when you got there. So until next week, which if the company I'm talking to does what they say, I should have a really cool unboxing next week. But if I don't, we'll come up with something. Until then, please be safe and play some games. See you in a week.